we're just talking about that. It's hard to have this stuff together.
Oh, it's not yours.
No, that's mine. I need to do well, I can see it.
She's like, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah. Okay. Zoe, that's my
That's he should be here. Okay, she's done with the She's been practicing. Please.
I know, right? Yes. Oh yeah.
I know.
Yeah, tell them.
I thought I could put my yellow notebook on. Yeah, this is the shirt. Yeah. We said we're gonna put them on sale, we just haven't. I still have the Melinda thing that y'all gave out, which I used it for some of my language. Yeah. That Lynn was correcting, and I was like, Lynn, it says it in here.
Hey all, this is just a test. You can hear me? Okay. Hi, come on. So welcome all. I'm Tracy Anderson, one of our board members, and I'd like to thank you for joining our March 2025 Board of Education Community Meeting. And thank you, Oakhurst, for hosting us. In celebration of March is Youth Art Month. Some of our incredibly talented CSD teachers and students are exhibiting their artwork each evening from 4 to 7. Next week, March 31st through April 2nd at the Solarium for the annual K-12 art exhibition. Oh, I love this thing. I'm sorry, I just interjected that. My daughter said this. And she's not very artistic, so it was kind of cool. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about the art exhibition that'll be at the Solarium next week And it looks like you've got a QR code there to sign in. I'm sorry, I'm already asking questions. Is this to sign in for tonight, or is this to sign in for the art exhibition? For tonight, okay, so please sign in if you haven't already, thank you. I see all the phones, like in our faculty meetings. Okay, so special thanks to the Decatur Education Welcome Foundation, Decatur Arts Alliance, and the Solarium for their funding and for their support. Here's the agenda for tonight's meeting. We will cover first the Board Management Oversight Plan, or we call it the BMOP, and our FY27 budget draft, number 1, and the new ECLC. Note that we will have time for two-way dialogue following each of these topics. Sorry, I am doing a really bad job with the slides. This is an opportunity for community members, which would be you, to ask us, the board, questions. We will use the following norms for tonight's meeting. 1, the time limit for speakers will be 3 minutes, and I will be facilitating the speaking portion, meaning when you come up, so I don't want to be rude, I don't want to cut you off, but I think the idea is that you've got a decent chunk of time, but nevertheless, 3 minutes so that we can hopefully hear from as many people who want to speak as possible. By keeping the 3 minutes, we'll be able to have that dialogue. Mutual respect is welcome. Respectful dissent is welcome. The board will not tolerate abusive language, hate speech, threats, jeers, or disrespectful commentary from the floor. Disruptive persons will be asked to leave the community meeting, and time has been allotted at the end of each session or section for Q&A. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Sultan, who will be delivering the first section, then we'll have Q&A, then the next section, Q&A, and then the final section in Q&A. Thank you, and I'm glad you're all here.
All right. All right, let's get started with the Board Management Oversight Plan, which we affectionately refer to as BMOP. First, this is the Georgia School Board Association, or GSBA, training slide. This graphic of a clock face is to show the difference between governance, or the board, and management, or superintendent and staff. We, as the board, are the top half of the clock, and it says we have board authority for oversight and management. We focus on adopting vision and goals, policy, and evaluation of outcomes. The day-to-day operations and management of the school system are under the authority of the superintendent, which is the bottom. Now, let's turn our lens to government as we talk specifically about BMOP and how it helps us with our governance oversight. So what is BMOP, which stands for Board Management Oversight Plan? In education terms, it's like our scope and sequence. It's our plan of what topics we will cover and when we will cover them. So in business terms, it's a little bit like a project plan. This plan is created annually for each school year. We are currently working on the 2026-2027 BMOPs. Our dialogue tonight will provide us with consideration for next year's draft. The document is designed to keep us focused on our strategic plan and our functions as a board. Content on the BMOP is aligned to one of our 4 strategic accelerators in our strategic plan. The areas of student data, budget, and policy are also included. As a board, we are responsible for adopting an annual budget and creating policy, so the BMOP structure helps keep us focused on these roles. As we learned in our book study several years ago, Great on Their Behalf, we must also focus on student data. As a school system, we must focus on students, and it's vital that we examine data points, especially student outcome data. Now, let me orient you a little bit to the format of our BMOP here. You will see that the first column shows each month. The second column shows the meeting dates and the meeting types within each month. So as you look across rows, you are looking at a particular month and a particular meeting. All the information for a given meeting is read from left to right. Now there are columns for each of the 4 strategic accelerators. This design allows us to show clear alignment between the strategic plan and the board meeting content. After the strategic accelerators, we have included columns for student data, budget, and policy. Each of these topics are part of the board authority and oversight, what we saw on the top half of the clock slide from earlier. This provides the overall layer of the BMOP document. Then in each cell, you will find meeting content. For example, in October, specifically at the October 14th BoE meeting, a UVA update was delivered. It's aligned to Strategic Accelerator number 1, student success in all areas. As you read across, you can see the other content planned for that meeting and the alignment to this strategic plan for student data, budget, and policy. Note that student data content might be embedded within another scheduled presentation. So content is aligned within our cycles of student data and the work of various departments. So the BMOP is located on the CSD website if you want to see it. If you navigate to the home page and hover over Board of Education, you will see a subpage for the Board Management Oversight Plan for the BMOP. If you don't know, Assembly is where all of our board documents are housed. This includes our meeting agendas, policy manuals, and strategic plan. On the main page of Assembly, we also link to the CSD website, which is on the left, and that's where the BMOP is accessible to you. And we have provided a QR code if you'd like to access the BMOP now, if you'd like to see what's in there. So now that we're familiar with the BMOP and its structure, I'd like to highlight a few things about its content. Throughout the year, there are state of presentations for all divisions. This allows us to hear annually about the work in each major area and the work of advancing the strategic plan and the strategic plan's objectives. There are also other presentations that allow to strategic plan objectives outside of the state of presentation. For example, you will see compensation updates, a priority of this board that is part of Strategic Accelerator number 3. That's embedded throughout the BMOP. These are delivered by HR, but are given outside of the state of HR presentation that's given in August. The BMOP content also includes updates on our partnership in which this board is invested. Examples are UVA, which is in October, Communities and Schools, which is in February, and One Goal, which is in June. Other annual items are included, things like academic calendar or legislative priorities. Overall, the BMOP provides our intended plan for the year. The structure ensures that as a board, we are receiving updates on each of the strategic plan objectives. While it is our plan, sometimes revisions are necessary. You may notice that when the BMOP is published, the content for meetings or board retreats is not always fully fleshed out. These are sometimes things we know, like when we will discuss budget development in our spring community meetings, or we will engage in annual ethics training in our first board retreat, but we also have space in these meetings to include timely or emergent needs. The agendas for Board of Education meetings and retreats are published in Assembly prior to our meetings. And we reflect on the content of these meetings as well. Now I will turn back over to Board Member Anderson to open the dialogue on our BMOP. And this is a two-way dialogue. Board members, let's remember that this is an opportunity for the community to ask us questions and not the opportunity for us to ask questions of ourselves.
And hey all, so that's the neat thing I think about a community meeting, unlike a regular board meeting in which you might come and speak and we look at you and then you walk away. This is your chance to come up here and ask us questions or share anything within the boundaries that you want. So is there anyone who'd like to find out more about the BMOP or anyone who would like to inform the way that we share and use the BMOP? Or just anything in general regarding what I would like to think is the cadence of our meetings. Right? So when I've had questions about things and I'm like, I want to talk about this now. And then I go and I look and I see, oh, we're actually talking about that in March, or we're talking about that in April. And I could keep talking, but this is your opportunity. We can move to the next section.
You guys know I'll talk.
Yeah, please.
So for BMOP, my question is, can you explain to me and everyone else when you want to give input, whether that's timeless? For example, the communication stuff, I sent an email early in January, and then it was, oh, the BMOP is in March, so I prepared it, and I sent it in for March, it felt like it was a bit late, and it wasn't informing you as much as it was like a tagline. So that would be my question, what's the best way for us to do?
And I think that's a very good question that I can't fully answer. I think you can email us as you did, but I think what you're saying is that didn't really work. I'm hoping, and tell me if I'm wrong, we started the BMOP in May 2024. And so I think we talked at our retreat about possibly, if not changing it, just looking at it, right? I mean, we're constantly looking at what we're doing and what might need to change. And so I'm indirectly answering your question because I've been thinking a lot about what it looks like without causing more work, right? But without necessarily waiting just once during the cadence of a school year to look at X item. But to answer your question, I think we do have a board feedback QR code or link. I asked about it recently because I was going through old information and I thought, I haven't seen this, I'm gonna check. And so I think we can pull that up and make it more prominent, one. But I really haven't answered your question of what is the date or what is the process? And I'm not sure we have one.
I think there's some sweet spots in the year though. There's a beginning of the school years when we're setting curriculum, also the beginning of the calendar year when we're looking at the total. That was kind of why I thought I would some sweet spots.
Can't hear back here. Can you speak with the mic?
Oh, sorry. I was hogging the microphone.
Just so for clarity too, those are great sweet spots, but it's more of, I want to respect the BMOP and respect the communications that are coming up and not talk about it in January. But I also want to give you the content so that when you go to that meeting in March, you're prepared. So what would be great, and you don't have to answer here, it's just, when is the best time to receive information that's coming down the line? Does that make sense?
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else who'd like to ask anything regarding board management? So I'm hearing that you would rather we move to the budget. Okay, so our next presentation is about the budget.
Okay, so there's actually a fair bit of information, so I'm going to move pretty quickly through it. If it's too quick, please start waving your hands, and I will slow it down. But to just start with, the 27 general fund preliminary budget was presented to us in the last board meeting on March 10th. This is the first draft. It was presented for discussion, not approval. So it's going to go through a number of iterations and be fairly different by the time it does get approved in the May meeting, just setting those expectations. So the board voted for the 2026 general fund budget in May 2025. Since that time, the revenue budget has increased by 1% due to the receipt of various grants. The QBE, which is the state funding, decreased by 31,000, reflecting 10 FTEs decrease from the initial QBE report. The expenditure budget has increased by 1.2 million due to those additional grants expenditures. Additionally, the fund balance, which is shown in the box over here on the right, has increased by about $7 million. The initial fund balance of 16 million was the projected unaudited fund balance based upon the FY25 budget. DeKalb County, there was an error in DeKalb County calculating district millage rate, and so we received a one-time unbudgeted tax revenue increase of $3.5 million. This was money that was owed to us that we were not paid from DeKalb County, and they trued it up all at once. Then the 25 expenditures came in around 2.6 million under budget. Other revenue came in at about $1 million over anticipated. All of this is to say that it increased the fund balance, which we had an ending fund balance that went from 13 million to 20 million. That fund balance percentage is 12% to 18%, which is above our threshold 15. Yes, I'm sorry.
Is there any way to dim the lights on the projection so we can see it?
Dim the lights in the room, you mean? Yeah, this is a bit of an eye chart. Is there any way that we can do that? Great.
Thank you.
Is it possible also to bring the blinds all the way? Okay. Yeah. Does that help any at all?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. For the record, I'm not actually able to read this slide either all the way up here. All of this information is going to be available. It is already available online, or should already be available online. Okay. So during budget season, we talk a lot about fund balance. The fund balance is the money that's held in reserve at the end of each year, and that fund balance is meant for effectively emergency use. The thinking is that it's going to present a period of months of our operating costs. The last time we dipped heavily into fund balance was actually during COVID, as everyone will remember. That's precisely the sort of event that fund balance is for. So it's also, I should say, a healthy fund balance is something that all of ratings agencies look and evaluate us for. Board policy specifies that we maintain the fund balance between 4% and 15%. Because of those funds that came across from DeKalb, we are this year going to use the fund balance to pay some one-time capital related costs that will bring that fund balance down to the 15% level that we want to leave it at. So one-time expenses included in the 27 preliminary budget include a $420,000, I'm sorry, for professional services with the ECLC. $110,000 to cover grant supplement. There's $800,000 for the implementation of an ERP system, that's Enterprise Resource Planning System. That is a finance and HR system. Our current finance and HR systems do not talk to each other. That makes it quite difficult actually to precisely budget. We are going to be upgrading that this year. There's $915,000 for startup costs related to things like furniture and such within the new ECLC. The Early Childhood Learning Center is scheduled to open in 28. These costs that we're talking about are one-time startup related costs. Ongoing operating costs will be reflected in future budgets. The projected running rate cost, operating cost for the new ECLC is $3.2 million. Anticipated revenue is $2.3 million. That is based on a blend of full tuition paying, partial tuition paying, and then not tuition paying students. We anticipate that will be filled with some element and support from philanthropy. Additionally, the Fraser Center staff and budget will be reallocated to the new ECLC, totaling an additional $850,000. The anticipated final fiscal impact on the general fund, meaning the run rate cost to the general fund for the ECLC, it will be less than $70,000. These amounts will be included in any projected 5-year general fund budget forecast that will be presented, I believe, in the next meeting, the tentative budget. $1.5 million of the one-time use of fund balance is used to cover repair and maintenance costs for existing facilities. And one-time use of the FY27 fund balance total is $3.7 million. Also included in the FY27 budget option is option number 2 for salary increases. This was one of the priorities of the board as expressed when this budget was being built. Ms. Walker presented the board with 4 options in the February board meeting. We selected option number 2, which expands the administrative scale by 3 additional steps. That is, the pay scales that teachers and other staff are paid within the system. Personnel changes within the budget include 4 positions eliminated in the central office, 2.5 positions eliminated in local schools, 7.5 positions created at the local schools, and 3 position reclassifications that have no fiscal impact. So this then is the preliminary general fund budget draft, starting with the table on the left. The first column is the current budget, that's the 26 budget. The second column is the preliminary 27 budget draft. Revenue in all is anticipated to increase by 3%, or to the right at about 3 million. This is based on anticipated 4% increase in property tax. That's a conservative estimate of increase. Last year's increase, just for the record, was right around 8.2%, and in 2024 it was around 5.2%. Local other remains the same. We are going to be accepting tuition, but we don't want to over-anticipate, and so that we're going to be leaving it at the same levels in terms of anticipation. State revenue also remains the same. This really is fundamentally to the fact that the state has not finalized their budget, and so our ability to anticipate right at this point is difficult. We will update that when we find out the final budget from the state. All grants, with the exception of about $120,000, have been removed from both revenue and expenditure budgets. Grants, just to be clear, are neutral in terms of what happens to the budget. Dollars that come in for grants have to exactly match the dollars that go out. When we have all of those finalized, they'll be included. There is 2 district properties, houses specifically, that are expected to bring in approximately $1.4 million. Total expenditures have increased by about $10.7 million. The majority of this expense, approximately $7 million, is for salaries and benefits. The table on the right shows the fiscal impact on the fund balance. So budgeted expenditures currently in this draft budget are $11 million more than budgeted revenue. As a part of this draft, we have deducted it from the 20 million, leaving a fund balance of 9 million, or approximately 7.7 million, or 7.7%. While that is within board policy, we don't want to leave it there. And so we are going to be doing work. In fact, the changes over the next budget cycle and the next few weeks are going to be to bring some of those numbers down so that the fund balance stays closer to that 15% level. At the March board meeting, Dr. Broom provided the board with explanations of the top $3 increases between the 26 budget and the 27 preliminary budgets. We asked for an explanation of support services central, so that category has also been included. So the top 4 areas then are school administration, instruction, maintenance and operation, support services central. Instruction, which has the largest increase at 5 million, is due almost wholly due to salary increases. School administration, which is 2 million, is $700,000 worth of salary and benefit increases, a reallocation of software as a service at about $800,000, and it includes the new equipment, the $500,000 new equipment for the ECLC. Maintenance and operations has increased by about $1.7 million, mainly due to the $420,000 one-time professional services contract for the ECLC, and the $1.2 million in transfers from SPLOST for maintenance. That is, again, the $1.2 million being used to pay down some of the overage in that reserve. Support services central was increased by less than $1 million due to $28,000 increase in salary and benefits, $25,000 in supplies for the ECLC, and then approximately $994,000 in one-time costs, including that $800,000 for the new ERP system. Again, this is the first budget. It is always high. These numbers are going to come down. That is how this is going to be evolved. As we build the rest of the 27 budget, these changes are going to occur. Some of the state's proposed budget recommendations will include amending the current budget, the 26 budget, to provide a $2,000 supplement for all K-12 teachers, admin staff, custodians, nutrition workers, school nurses, and bus drivers. Additionally, decal teachers and assistant teachers will receive the state supplement. This budget amendment was passed and the funds are scheduled to be released from the state at the end of this month. Although the state only provided one-time supplement for certain positions, the superintendent, under her authority per board policies, is authorized to transfer appropriations within function codes without board approval for transfers that do not exceed $100,000. Under this policy, the superintendent will reallocate about $768,000 in multiple categories. $768,000 within the different function categories from position savings resulting from vacancies. The amount reallocated for each category will not exceed the $100,000 limit. The state's proposed FY27 budget includes an increase in state health costs of 7.5%. Should be clear that is an unfunded mandate that the state is putting onto school systems. So the increases in these state health plan benefits have been substantial over the last number of years. The total is about $11,280 per member per year. So these are the employees that receive that. The costs have gone up about $12,000 per employee per year without any sort of funds that came along with that. So the 7.5% increase this year is about another $150 per member per month. The fiscal impact is going to exceed $1 million this year. The state will fund about $800,000 of that, which is going to leave the gap for us to figure out in this budget. As a part of the 26th legislative session in Georgia, 2 bills are under consideration that will have impact on all school districts, potentially will have impact on all school district funding. That's the Senate Bill 382 and House Bill 1116. Both bills focus on providing property tax relief to homeowners through mechanisms such as limits on increases in property values. While the intent of this legislation is to reduce tax burden on homeowners, because property taxes account for such a significant portion of the local funding for public schools, it will impact us. As a result, we are closely monitoring this legislation and evaluating the potential impacts on long-term financial planning and budgeting. We are continuing to follow the legislative process and work with state and local partners to understand any changes or impacts that may eventually impact us. Additionally, Georgia House Bill 127 focuses on educator leave. The bill proposes increasing the number of days of accumulated sick leave days that teachers and school employees may use for personal or professional reasons from 3 to 5 days per school year. This is to provide educators with additional flexibility while continuing to use their earned leave. Lastly, the teacher retirement system has announced its annual increase from 21.9% to 22.3%. This increase is going to have an impact in the general fund about $800,000. It is reflected within this budget. And so the 27 preliminary budget draft number 1 is aligned with charter innovations to help advance student achievements. And the FY27 budget is in, wait, am I in the right spot? Hold on, let me go back. Here we go. The FY27 budget is intentionally aligned with the district's strategic accelerators and the board's FY27 budget priorities to ensure that financial resources directly support the district's long-term goals while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Next steps in the 27 budget process include the presentation of the preliminary draft 2 at April's board meeting. Another community meeting similar to this will be held on April 22nd at the high school. Then in May, we will have 2 special called board meetings for public budget hearings. The FY27 budget and the millage rate will be tentatively approved at the May board meeting. The final budget will be approved at the June 2nd board meeting. We will also have 3 special called board meetings on the millage rate hearing. Last but not least, the FY27 budget book will be printed in August. And I believe that brings us to the end of the slides.
Okay, so now it's your chance to come up and ask questions about the budget. So who's willing to go first?
Couple of questions.
Sure.
Yeah, a couple of questions. We're, this, you know, we have this $52 million bond. For the $52 million bond, when does CSD start paying that?
Next budget, as in,
So not in this budget?
It will not be in this budget, it will be a part of the SPLOST funding in the next budget.
So we don't have, so in 27, we're not paying the company that's building the ECLC, we're not paying them until the end?
They'll be paid, we'll get the bonds, but the bond payments get paid for within the next budget cycle.
And then, is that why that the, like, one-time ECLC costs are not covered by the bonds, because we don't have the bonds yet?
Yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned about the cost difference, for the ECLC would be covered by philanthropy. Can you talk more about that, or what makes you think that will come to fruition?
Dr. Whitaker, do you want to take that question?
The Early Childhood Learning Center is what is considered a capital stack, meaning you are addressing workforce development, you're addressing literacy, you're addressing access to early learning, and you're also addressing workforce development needs in a high shortage area, which is around education, specifically early learning. So the Early Learning Center is known as a capital stack. And when you talk to funders about the capital stack and the way in which the capital stack addresses what would be considered the top 10 issues in the state of Georgia around education, that is why I think it will come to fruition.
How many organizations have you talked to about this? Or organizations? How many? And what did they say? They really need money?
They say they understand it is a capital stack.
So they think what we can pass this out, but they have not done anything for it?
We can't hear.
Yes, so when seeking philanthropy funding, you have to actually have a shovel in the ground before you can actually get that funding. So right at the moment, we don't have a shovel in the ground.
That's not true. Yeah. Many
Well,
of us work in philanthropy.
I guess another question there is, are there other projects like this throughout Georgia that have gotten philanthropic funding? Which ones? And have you done an analysis on that?
Yes, when you look at the Whitehead Foundation and the work that they have done, not too far from us, they've done that work as well.
How much do they give to which school?
That I cannot quote.
That would be great to make sure that some of these assumptions are backed by actual things that happen in Georgia.
I had a couple of questions, one on the ECLC. I understand that the construction cost is $22.5 million. Of the $22.5 million is the approximately $2.4 to $2.5 million you showed tonight, between the professional service, the startup cost, the fixtures. Is that included in the 22.5, or is that in addition to?
In addition to? Okay, in addition.
Okay, so now we're talking about more like $25 million plus the $3.2 million a year to operate, is that correct?
Yes.
Back, I guess I asked Dr. Friend, actually I emailed the board, and she was the one who answered my questions about of the 336 children being served by the College Heights and the Fraser Center. I asked how much percentage was full scholarship, how much partial scholarship, and how much was full tuition. And only 3% was full scholarship students. So I'm kind of curious how we're gonna get the philanthropy up to pay for a third of the ECLC. And then my last question is, what's my train of thought, sorry. My last question, I guess, is, in the budget, can you provide, maybe a simplified pie chart that shows how much is being, allocated to instruction, how much is being allocated to administration, and how much is allocated to facilities operation and maintenance, so we can see how the money is distributed?
We can, there is, well, we don't have the slides here, but there is a slide that shows instruction, M&O, everything that we're in the stack that you can see. There we go, yeah. So I realize this isn't a pie chart, right? But this does show instruction at 68 million, 69 million. Where's my maintenance and operations? Maintenance operations at about 12.8 million.
But that way we wouldn't have to try and figure it out for ourselves. It'd be a nice graphic that you show.
Just want a graphic? Okay, sure.
That's how you're,
Sure.
spending our money in big pots.
Okay.
Can I just clarify that, because I think I heard you say like instruction and administration and maintenance, and then I know these are different funding codes, right? But is the question really, can we take what might be 12 different funding codes and put them into these broader categories that would answer to whether, like, support services central and support services business, is that?
Support services is not something I consider for instruction, so teachers would be like for
Right.
instruction, things like that. I feel it's important to know how much is actually going to instruct children and how much is going to support.
We can combine, so I mean, because your question's a good one, right? Because something that's down here at $200,000, for example, wouldn't show up on a pie chart that has something at $70 million, right? And so we can combine it into instruction and not instruction, or instruction in other categories, and give that kind of a graphic for you to see.
Thank you all so much for having this meeting. Do you mind going back to 2 previous slides?
Yeah, tell me when to stop.
One more. Okay. First, this right here. So I'm looking at the original budget and the amended budget, and when I look at these amended budget here, I'm seeing $3 million just about less in instructional costs, whereas I'm seeing, if you go further, sorry, go back to the slide that you were on previously. So that $3 million less. Oh. Okay, so it looks like it was $3 million less in the amended budget, is that correct? But this, I'm not sure that this number, is this number correct on the preliminary budget? Because if that amended budget number is correct, it's actually less. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get us to where you are.
Yeah, so that's $63 million. So, okay, go ahead,
Yeah.
go back again. This is what happens when you look at spreadsheets for work all the time. So that says 68 million. So in fact, actually, it looks like the FY27 preliminary budget is basically no increase, maybe a very, very minor increase, maybe a decrease. I didn't look at the exact numbers, but it's a 63 million versus 63 million, correct?
No. So I'm sorry. This column is the 23 budget, same budget. So
Yeah.
this
I know,
is,
that's 26.
Yeah.
I'm looking at 27.
so it's 68. Is this what we're talking about in instruction?
Yeah,
63 to
but now
68?
look back at the amended budget.
That's 26 as well. The amended
That's
budget was
also
also 26.
26.
It's this column.
Okay.
Yeah. And I understand how that's a little bit confusing, but what the state does is the state will sometimes make changes that force us to amend the in-year budget to be
Okay.
able to either distribute additional state funds or reallocate funds for, what we have generally taken as a philosophy is if the state comes and says, we're gonna give this category of teacher a little bit of a one-time pay bump, we go ahead and give all of the teachers the one time, like we do feel like that's probably appropriate. And so we amend the in-year budget to reflect that. So this is actually the amended 26 budget that was on the previous slide. This is the projected 27 budget that we're talking about.
Okay, so it's actually likely then that that 27 budget is actually going to decrease on instructional costs if we're following what happened in 26, correct?
But possibly, I mean, so what changed it in 26 was the state changes. But yes, I would say that it is safe to assume that as we finish building this budget out, you are gonna see some decreases in 27. It is unlikely that the buckets will increase.
Okay, so what that means is that most likely our teachers are not going to get an 8% increase.
I can't, not doing the math off the top of my head, but if that number ends up less, then yes, it would be smaller than 8%.
So, but when I'm looking at the original budget and the amended budget on the support services, that looks relatively similar. It's 4482 versus 4413. That's pretty darn close. So here is my concern, and I think many of our concern in this room. It is very likely that our instructional staff might get maybe a 5% increase, while our support staff might get a 21% increase. And go ahead, I have an email from a teacher that I'd like to read about this, but please go ahead.
Yeah. So it's important to note that it's not just related to salary changes, it's also related to position changes and vacancies over time, right? And so there are things like that happens. In terms of overall expenses, if you run a CAGR on, if you run the compound annual growth rate on the budget over the last number of years, the biggest buckets of changes are going to be both instruction and central office. And the biggest changes there in both those categories are specifically related to salary adjustments. So our teachers went from, in terms of salary and total compensation, went from bottom to middle of the metro area. That's where they were 4 years ago. The last 3 years, we've provided substantial salary changes, not just to teachers, but across the board, based upon what those positions are in the metro area, right? And so our teachers now, in almost all the categories of teachers that we have, are in the top quartile. In several positions, they are the #1 or #2 best paid positions within the metro area. We still have work that has to be done. So this is 100% correct. Y'all, this is 100% correct, right? In terms of total compensation, an entry-level teacher in Decatur makes more money than any other district in the metro area.
So let me actually share, this is a direct email that I received from a teacher, actually a phenomenal teacher, one of my children, so I have 2 kids who went to Winona Park, as well as kids now at Tally, now at Beacon. One of our very favorite teachers, she actually told me today that she is leaving for APS. So when I'm telling this story, I'm not speaking just on her behalf, but on behalf of the other teachers, because they can't come to this meeting, but I can. So I'm speaking for them. So this is a direct quote from her. Okay. In all my years of working in both corporate America and in the school district, 4 different Metro Atlanta districts, nobody has ever added the benefits to the total compensation package and advertised it as part of the salary. They share it with employees, but do not present it as something to compare with the other districts like CSD does. It is insulting to employees because every school district offers benefits. It is just expected, like it is in every other job. And she goes on to say, I won't go into all my feelings about this situation because it honestly just makes me feel so sad for CSD employees. It is absolutely horrifying what is happening. We have been stripped of our schools of so many supports, APs to address behavior, EIP teachers to target kids who need academic help, and now the nurses. I pray that this group of parents who are here today continues to find out more and more. So that's why we're here today. We're finding out more and more. We are continuing to advocate on behalf of our teachers and on behalf of our kids.
Continue on in a similar vein, you mentioned the compound annual growth rate. And I was looking at not CSD budget figures, but Georgia Department of Education budget figures from 2019 to 2025. The compound annual growth rate for all the lower elementary salary and benefits alone, so not talking about maintenance, other expenses, just salary and benefits, and not just salary, but salary and benefits, is like 1.3%. I can pull up the exact figure. The compound annual growth rate for the central admin salary and benefits is 15%. And we're at the point that if this trend continues in 2029, there will be more salary and benefit expenses in the central admin office alone than all of the salary and benefits for all of our elementary schools. The growth rates of central admin expenses versus our teachers and the instructors that we're all here to talk about. So that's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
To speak tonight. I'm David White, now I'm a third generation Decatur resident. And I retired a year ago after 28 years as a foundation executive in Atlanta. I just want to respectfully disagree with your assessment of the prospects for gaining all public support. We funded public education in both of the foundations that I live. And we looked at three things. First of all, we also very commonly review feasibility studies long before shovels went in the ground, to see if what the case was being made sense to us, and we look at three things. We look at the scale of the impact, how many teachers would be trained, how many students would be served, and what were the economic profiles of the students being served. Is this a needy community? Decatur has, unfortunately, an increasingly high bar to meet where that's concerned. We also look at the budget for the facility. We look at the cost per square foot. In the current scenario, you have a very high bar to meet with what you're proposing to build at the cost that you're proposing. And finally, we look at the quality of the board leadership of any nonprofit. We need the unfortunate process behind everything up to the point of the PCLC would fundamentally disqualify this project from anything we would ever consider. So I offer that with respect. It's just one person, one foundation's perspective, but I have to suggest that a lot of my peers would have had the same assessment.
Thank you, and I think because please come on up, because we didn't have any questions or many from the BMOP, I think we're still okay time-wise. Because the meeting ends at 8, right?
What we would say, the next section of the conversation is actually the ECLC. So if your questions are related to that, that's
Hi, I'm Eva Summerlin. I'm a parent of 2 Decatur students. I'm a CPA. I was in public accounting for 10 years and I've been a CFO for 10 years. And to be honest, the level of detail and transparency that is going into these board docs is just not acceptable for our community. So to start off with questions, where is a PR firm dollars running through? What line item is that running through?
So I think I can try to answer this. The earlier policy that was changed, I think we voted on in January. It's a purchasing policy, I think by state law. Every superintendent, unless the policy says otherwise, gets up to $100,000 to spend without board approval. We changed the policy, I believe it sat there. I was actually talking about comparable districts like Marietta and Beaufort, but I believe we voted on 75,000. So to answer your question, I don't know, because we don't have a vendor report. So I believe unless we ask for it, it is
What do you mean?
somewhere in the budget.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, I assume.
Central support services is where the 75K for PR came from.
Okay, and what about the attorney fees that are being paid right now? What is that amount?
No, that would also be there. That would also be there.
I agree that I think that this is not as transparent as we would like to see. We see PR and legal and admin and Wilson Center and all of this growing exponentially. I have 2 children with IEPs and their services are pushed back daily. We have people leaving this district because of that, because we're prioritizing the wrong things. And that's very clear from looking at this. If you have my expertise, it is not as clear to the everyday person. But I agree that we go out to philanthropists and ask for help. Nobody's gonna come in with the level of admin costs. If you go to Charity Navigator, it shows you what % is spent on admin costs. That is extremely high for our district. We are not prioritizing the right avenues of support for our students. And I would just ask that you all go back to the drawing board with this and bring it back to the goal of the school system, to instructional support for teachers. Why did we not select the highest pay increase? We have a huge fund balance. What drove that? What drove the board to select?
I would, as a CPA, you'll recognize that when you are trying to fund something that is going to be a run rate item, you would not fund it out of a one-time fund, right? So you can't, but the reason why we wouldn't spend one-time dollars on a recurrent salary expense is because then what do you do the next year? Like, then it becomes a tax increase.
The nurses, respectfully, I'm sorry to respond, but you're cutting the teachers and cutting the nurses.
But that, the specific point that you said, but those are all, again, those are run rate expenses, right? And so it isn't actually fiscally responsible to spend extra reserve dollars on something that is gonna recur year after year. That is something that is fiscally not responsible, right? And so, so the question is, and this is a good one, if you say, can we cut other expenses to fund run rate? Can we cut run rate expenses to fund run rate increases? 100%, that's 100%. But a large fund balance can't be responsibly used to incur run rate expenses. That's just not how finance works.
Yeah, I'm aware, thankful. Hold on just a second. Since you were talking about fiscal responsibility, I was not gonna read this, but I'm gonna go ahead and read this. And this is to the board. But as a reminder, you all have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of this district. Fiduciary duty means stewardship, loyalty, and compliance with the law. Right now, that duty is not being met. Our legislators are involved. There's other people that are involved. Things are getting reported. Nobody in here wants that level of focus on Decatur. I promise you. But that's what's happening right now. So, as a neighbor, as somebody who knows you all probably signed up for something and it's become more than you expected, which I certainly understand. And somebody that knows that I think that you all have the best intentions, I really do. But as a neighbor and as somebody who knows you have a legal, personal responsibility, they can come after you personally. And I'm not saying that as a threat, I'm saying it as something to make you aware that fiduciary duty is legal. I would recommend that we also get an outside attorney to start looking into things on the board and for city schools in Decatur.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify one point, because I heard it twice, I don't believe, and Dr. Brome can clarify, that there has been, and I don't see Ms. Walker either, where nurses have been cut. So it has not been the case that within the next hiring cycle where nurses have lost their, what's happening is we have nursing vacancies. So if the position has not been filled, rather than going out and trying to hustle up somebody who has an RN, what we'll do is fill that position with somebody who has a different medical certification. So we're not cutting nurses. Some of these schools have had vacancies, unfortunately, for some time. So what we're doing is trying to make sure that every school has qualified medical personnel. It may be a medical assistant, it may be an LPN, but what we're not doing is cutting nurses or firing them. That has not happened. I heard that twice, so I want to clarify that. I'm sorry?
When will you switch it back to a full nurse position?
I think if we get a nurse and the nurse wants that position, then we would hire into it. But I can tell you as somebody who works in healthcare, finding RNs is extraordinarily difficult. So what we will do is, who want to work in this position, but what we will do is over time, if we don't have somebody, then we can put a different qualified medical personnel in those positions. It may be a medical assistant or an LPN. I had some of the same concerns, but what happens if we don't have a nurse in a school? I reached out to leadership in the American Academy of Pediatrics, 2 people who I know that are in leadership. And I said, what happens if we don't have a nurse there? And they said the goal is to have a medical professional in every school. It may not be a nurse, it might be a medical assistant or an LPN, but as long as you have somebody, then that's the goal. So we're not necessarily, I just want to clarify that we're not cutting nurses or firing them.
If it's okay, you'll be our last question until we move to the ECLC.
So, talking about getting back to the kids, and she asked a really good question about how will you ensure that the Early Learning Center fills those spots with the children that need those spots? Because looking back at the history of College Heights, they admit that they failed in closing the achievement gap. And we see now that they don't have children. I saw a letter written by the FDE that group that they admitted that they failed in that letter. But what plan do you have to ensure that kids that need this will fill those 50 spots and they don't turn into a daycare spot? What plan do you have? My child's best friend in one of his best friends in like 5th grade, 6th grade, I think, was falling behind. They started this program that put these kids in class. He was so proud, he was great, he got A's and B's, and the next year they graduated. And that's what has to be made. So it has to be way more than just the Early Learning Center program. What funding do you have to follow these kids all the way through high school to ensure that you can reach your goal of achievement? Gotta be more than just the school. And I haven't seen any sort of real proof that the 22 million has to be spent in the building. We have talked about that ad nauseam, about how expensive the building is. And if you had put that money more into the long term, I hear parents talk all the time about their children are going to support them. So, I mean, I really like all this really, really, really work on it.
Thank you.
One of the things that's, I would say very important about closing achievement gaps is not to have the gap in the first place. When I walked into this district, the high school student who was economically disadvantaged, ultimately the student who we are talking about qualifying from birth to 5 or birth to 4 for that seat. Their percentage of reading at or above grade level was 38%. In 2023. In 2024, it moved to about 52%. And now we are at 63%. That's at high school. At middle school, the gain has been from the 50th percent also to about 63%. Economically disadvantaged students. And then at elementary, it was 46% reading at or above grade level for reading. And now we are at 60%, above 60%. Now, is that enough? No. But when you are talking about putting programs in place to increase outcomes for students, changing the literacy program in our schools, we've done that. Changing the way we serve students who are below grade level when they enter high school, we are doing that. And the outcomes have been clear. All of those things that I have stated are a part of your college and career readiness performance index. That is your state accountability system. That is not my definition of at or above grade level reading. It is not the school system's definition. It is the state's definition. Now, what I will say, if we can make a 20 percentile gain for economically disadvantaged students in a 2 to 3 year standpoint, when I'm getting them potentially in 3rd grade to 5th grade, or even looking at their growth from kindergarten to 5th grade, or even looking at what Ms. Garland presented this month on the early literacy gains using STAR early reading. This is how you do put the money into the students, because you won't have the gaps that you need to close in high school. 38% reading at or above grade level, and I'm about to give you a diploma. My question would be, do you understand what that diploma means? That is the work that we have done over the past 2.5 years, and that is the work that will continue to a greater level of degree within Early Learning Center.
Is this time for questions?
I got one more comment.
I just also want to put out, if there is some data or letter from College Heights saying that they have made some mistake or failure, I personally would love to see it. I'm also a College Heights parent. I go there every single day. We got a very heartfelt letter from one of their teachers this afternoon. And I worry about the narrative out there that they are not providing, or that early education is not providing for our earliest learners. I think that they see them, I know they see themselves as teachers. They do not see them, they are teachers. College Heights is not a daycare. Daycare is where you put babies and you watch. They use standards, they have metrics, they find students that are not meeting milestones, and they insist that they get to those milestones. So I worry about the narrative being out there that they are not serving students well, or that they haven't served students well in the past, or that students that have gone through that program are not, that it wasn't worth it. I worry about that being out there.
When College Heights started, this is an older letter. I'm just saying, let's not repeat the history of what they did.
And if I could just comment, I understand narratives, but I think what I hear is, and I've heard since the inception of the ECLC, was the data we might have to help demonstrate the benefits of early learning versus a criticism of College Heights. I think the daycare thing is a problem that we created by allowing the ECLC to be zone daycare. I think we all agree that it's early learning, but I think it's unreasonable to have the building called one thing and then expect everyone to not call it that. I don't know if there's an answer to that because I don't get to decide zoning. Hi.
Hey, I just want to make one really short comment. All these numbers are great and all these stats are great, but the only way you're ever going to achieve comment is, don't take your eye off the ball. You're gonna see a lot of people, a lot of good teachers in your district leave for neighboring districts because of money, because of all the things that come down on the teachers. And so I have a very simple request. Do not take your eye off the ball and make your teachers happy, and they will be the ones who make all of these numbers and all of these stats happen.
Speak up.
I'm a little nervous about talking. Last year, I went to community at FAE because I was concerned about EMP positions getting cut. One of the positions here still got cut. Both my partner and I decided to teach kindergarten rather than to do first, and that risked that. Not knowing the future intervention. Positions in the school, and also knowing that with our history of being able to identify needs and differentiate for those needs, that we would be at an advantage because we would have a paraprofessional in the classroom to help us do that and reach them. So I do believe in early intervention. I absolutely believe that, and I believe that at the ECLC level. But one of the articles I read, and I think it, I try not to feed into all that. I am a teacher here, I see it, I know it. But I do see teachers now struggling without enough services, and it doesn't mean necessarily it has to come from the EIP, but we don't have enough people to provide children with what they need. And in terms of, if you're saying, and I may have misheard you, whatever, but when you were saying that since you've been here 2 years or whatever, you've seen an increase in the high school position, in the high school, the achievement gap has improved. That wouldn't be because of early intervention, because that would have happened a long time ago. So that argument doesn't really, so was that intervention services, and does that actually prove the point that we need more intervention services and more people instead of cutting people?
Great question. The changes that were made in early intervention is because in early intervention, we were serving children who didn't qualify, but using the state funds to serve them.
Yeah, I understand.
And so in the parent, so I want to be clear. We were earning state funding for early intervention and serving children who didn't qualify for early intervention. So that's a misalignment. And now in the high school, what we did was a couple of things. One, we focused on intervention, but their intervention is done a little differently through REP. And the resources they were using also was changed. So that's how that change actually came about, so that you would go from 38 to 66. But as far as not anything more than what we have here. It's around the design of the systems and the actual access of resource.
And is there any reason to believe whether or not the state says that's what we need, that we might not still need that intervention?
No. We, City Schools of Decatur, was taking state-funded early intervention dollars and not using it on students who qualified for early intervention.
Absolutely understand.
And that's why we had to stop.
Could we use other funding to give other services for children at the lower level to, I mean, you had a large number of families leaving because their funding, not to say that it's true, is that their children not getting what they need. So my question is, and I'm not at all saying that's what's happening, but I want to speak as a professional, as a parent, but also as a teacher. reason we couldn't find money to provide tutoring services that maybe wouldn't be EIP or provide extra support because if we have found money for other things, why can't we find money from that and put an equal amount or at least more of a percentage in helping those kids who might be below that 40, who might be above that line where they qualify for intervention, so those kids in between that don't qualify. There was a time when we actually were giving tutoring services, and I'm just wondering, and how can we make something like that available if the whole problem is that, you know, we don't want to get in trouble with the state, I get that, we don't want to take their money, but if the goal is to intervene in early childhood, this is early childhood.
Yes.
So
It
it's
is.
not just ELC, and I think it needs to, we have to have enough funding for those early years, so it doesn't just stop at ELC.
No, I agree, and that is why we are implementing the Georgia MTSS system. The Georgia MTSS, not the city schools of Decatur MTSS system. And that is what we must implement. The intervention systems and resources that we were using prior to, we needed to stop using because they weren't evidence-based. So example, using HELPS, using the system of Georgia MTSS, which is what we must follow, is what we must do. Now, I can't speak to what we did before in the way in which we used funding to support students who didn't qualify. What I need to express and be very clear about, when I sign off, just like I did today for FTE, I must be able to match the student need with the training and experience of a teacher, i.e. the credential and the code of the class that they are teaching. In the past, we were not able to triangulate that, and that is my responsibility.
And my question, because we're not thinking, because if that's the system we have to follow, fine, but we're finding money for other things. And my question, and if you haven't seen what we've done in the past, we possibly, you know, talk about that, I'm happy to talk to you about that. What I'm saying is that I feel like the instruction right now that we have in these schools is important, and I don't, whether or not we're losing them because of too many numbers or because we weren't doing the state-funded things correctly. All I'm asking, or really all I'm saying is that it may be a good idea to consider other ways to provide additional intervention services if we're not getting them from the schools.
But looking at teacher surveys, work-life balance is number one. We just heard from a teacher. And I think they forget the word intervention because I think it immediately makes us click over to, you know, specifics and requirements, right? But what I'm hearing is we have right now, and again, I love the teachers of this, I'm like, get moving. But we have option number 2 that we're going with, that's a very high amount. And if you're telling me that the stats are that they're in the top 1, 2, 3, we really believe that, and we really feel like that's solid data, we would maybe go with another option this year, but give them more help in the classrooms. But again, if the numbers are all right, if they're not right, based on what your community of smart, intelligent people are saying, maybe we do need to stick with option 2. I just think that needs to be investigated. Sorry, I just wanted to.
Yeah, and thank you very much. I started my 30th year of teaching last month, and so teaching is near and dear to my heart, and I don't think any of our students would have an education if we didn't have the teachers. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you also for referencing our most recent HR report, because the work-life balance has been an emerging or also a continual thing, and so I look forward to hearing about it. We are going to transition, if that's okay, to Lorraine speaking about the ECLP. Yeah, we'll have, would you like to speak or do you want to wait? Okay, thank you. So now we have our third presentation. Lorraine.
Hi guys, it's nice to be back at Oakhurst. I would say this is my kid's home school and it's been a while since I'm here. And I'm also your newest board member, so I am here to present on the Early Childhood Learning Center. I'll walk through what's in the materials, which outline 2 primary paths forward with the PFA bond or pursuing a referendum. On March 15th, 2026, the Decatur delegation, our Georgia legislators, sent a letter to the board asking if the City Schools of Decatur would seek a voter referendum on the current ECLC plan. The delegation's letter included proposed legislation that would require City Schools of Decatur to seek a voter referendum on the revenue bonds issued through the PFA for projects of $20 million or more. Under the current law, no referendum is required prior to the issuance of revenue bonds by the PFA. The delegation has submitted their proposed legislation as of March 17, 2026, which has been passed by the Senate and is awaiting a vote by the House. And this outlines the differences between the prior legislation and now. I think today it was announced on our website, I saw, that we are holding a special called meeting on Friday, March 27th at noon at the Wilson Center. That's public, and the board will discuss, this topic at the special called meeting. I just want to say personally, I believe how we move forward now matters as much as what we decide. Transparency, due diligence, and real collaboration and engagement have to be part of that path. So.
All right, who would like to come ask questions or share concerns? It's your meeting, so I love hearing your questions.
Expecting a little bit more. However, I'm all over the place tonight because I wear so many hats and my lived experiences and the reason I'm here tonight. But I will say this, as a qualifier, I am a product of City Educated Schools. I was born and raised in what is known as Beacon Hill. And that site where the proposed ECLC is going, it was home to many of my family members and friends, okay? I value highly my education. I got here in Decatur. I still consider Decatur home, and I know what the value of education is. I am deeply concerned relative to the ECLC, where this is going. Now, I have to say this. I in no way am opposed to an ECLC, okay? Nor any effort that improves on or directs its attention and focus and goes to educating the students who live here. My family was very high in education. We are without children and grandchildren as well, so it is vital. My success in life has been based on the foundation I got here in the city of Decatur. But I'm disturbed with the idea that a proposed new building at the cost of today's dollars is your answer to closing the achievement gap for the children who live in the city. It's nothing when it comes to what you put inside of the brain of the student. And my focus is, you've got schools. I grew up with the neighborhood school concept in Decatur. It has worked for families for generations. We value that, the community building around that neighborhood. And to know that you're saying to propose to build a new early childhood learning center, at the same time, you know you're gonna close the neighborhood school, and you got to, okay? It is disconcerting, and it really is just totally, what your role is as educators and board members and everybody else in the system. So why am I talking about this ECLC now? Is because I really am gonna focus my attention on the science stream. Because that's what's driving me and my parents and my families and our generation of what's going on. Now, I will tell you this. I'm a student, having gotten this education indicator, student of politics. I got an undergraduate degree in political science, so I know how government and politics works, okay? Been working it all my life. I have a master's degree in public sector financial management. I understand these figures and what you're doing, and I'm telling you, anybody educated in numbers and costs and relative costs and everything else in accumulation knows this ain't right. Y'all ask for in all of this, and I say this and get off this bandwagon because I know there are a lot of residents whose tax bases are going to be impacted by this more so than mine. But I'm one of those who got displaced out of Decatur. I didn't choose to move. My family was forced to move. And now I can't afford to buy back into it, even though I would like to, but can't do that. That's not the issue right now. So what I'll say is, as a legacy Beacon Hill resident, a descendant of those of us who lived here, and it was very grounds, it is that site at 346 West Trinity Place that we take issue with. Not against you having a new ECLC, not against you working on all these goals to improve or close the achievement gap, but it is because that site is where my ancestors and all the generations of families who lived in Decatur lived on that land. We owned homes and businesses and startups and everything from the early 40s on up. And that was closed and displaced by urban renewal. Then you get to the 60s when we've come, another generation, same damn thing, excuse me, same thing. Same damn thing. Same thing happens, you get displaced again. The generational death as Black people in the city of Decatur has totally been wiped out for multiple generations over two so-called urban renewal efforts in the city because it didn't fit within the picture you were painting. And I see you painting a picture now that ain't right, okay? And it's not coming. So the transparency, the focus, and everything else, I say that. The reason the site, so where West Trinity Place is where our homes were, and then they came and built the projects. Then I call them the projects, you know, it's Alamos and Carries, the public housing there. Then they tore that down and redid them and rehearsed. The very site of 346 West Trinity Place was supposed to be phase 4 of the Decatur City Housing Authority's plan for the development of that land. And what was supposed to go on that land? Affordable housing. Now all you got are the apartments, subsidized, whatever, and you want to call it this, whoever you say live there. My thing is that we applied for, and you know this, to get historic designation for that site, along with the whole broad area that we call Beacon Hill. And that recommendation is being made to the city commission. The preservation commission said yes. However, for you to put a building of what we fought to preserve the land and the history and the legacy that my people have in this city, and you want to pave over that and put a concrete building, more brick and mortar and stuff, it is really just, it's a slap in the face to what the effort has been to preserve a history of Black folks in this city. And if you say that your education is seeking to improve and close a gap, mainly when you talk about disadvantaged students, most folks think Black. I don't care what you say, okay? It may be some others in there. But you're erasing history, you're paving over it, you're trying to hide the truth instead of bringing it out. A building isn't the education that these children need. What they need is the instruction and the teachers in the current schools that they have. And if you're gonna put up a new one, it's all about who you got teaching these children and what they are teaching them.
Come on,
If you wanna cross over and cover up the true history, I don't need anybody else to tell me my history. You might wanna put something there and say this is representative, no. But when you don't engage the very people who have that history and the relationship, you're being dishonest. You're not being real. And all I'm saying, don't use those children in the housing authority as a prop for what you want to do, because what I saw in the statistics was, there's gonna be a third of those slots, 150 slots for the housing authority kids. I don't think there are very many kids there, but I haven't seen any numbers, okay? A third of it, 50 slots, for CSD staff. And then another third for full tuition paying people. These aren't the disadvantaged folks. But why do this and use these housing authority kids as the cover for something when you know that's not the real reason this is being built? So I could sit here, I could go on for days, because I'm angry, but I'm not deterred. I'm tired, but I'm not deterred that something has to give. So what we're asking you now is, just pause for a minute, please, just stop on this whole construction idea. Engage these parents, the students, the parents and teachers, the community, and others, and listen to these legacy folks in this history thing of what could be that falls truly in line with the educational objectives and goals that you have for school board members as representatives, elected representatives here. So what we're saying to you is there's an effort that we're asking that you do, or get an archaeological survey done on this land. All right? At the least. Ain't nothing you gotta pay for, it ain't gotta be in your budget. We already got volunteers who are willing to do this, local archaeologists. But this could be an educational opportunity for community engagement, whereas folks in the community and students from the schools can participate in this. Learn about this history that I could sit here, it would take me years to tell you anything, but I could, okay? And I'm willing, but this is not the time and place. Get that study done first. Just pause for a minute. I ain't asking you to cancel your plans. That's not what I'm about. And please don't mistake me like I heard before. We're not against education. Not against education. Right? So just get the study done. See what's found there, and archaeologically, if there's something worth preserving, as you say, we say it's grand. It's dear to us. It's sacred. And it's more when we I'm part of what we formed as a Beacon Hill Grassroots Coalition. That's our Decatur Day organization, and most of you know, I ain't gonna go into it today, because you know that's very dear to my heart. 37 years of celebrating Black folks' lives and histories and businesses in the city of Decatur. That's an annual event. And I will say this though, it ain't a one-off. It ain't just something you can dismiss, because it's significant to us. So that site is significant. We've been able to celebrate on the last 3 years. And I'm not saying just keep it for that reason. There are myriad organizations and families and individuals using that property today for various celebrations. My understanding is that if you look around downtown Decatur, we are all bricks and mortar. This is a little bit of green space, okay, that from the downtown Decatur neighbors who've been advocating for some green space for years, to the school's parents who've been advocating for some keeping their neighborhood schools, so the environmental, cultural, and everything else that we are engaged in, we want you to do. So I just want to leave you with one comment. Okay. We had a statement, one of the indigenous, AL, who spoke at all of the HPC and everywhere else, and I'll just give you with the statement, and I kind of paraphrase in his statement. And it says, let this green space, and we ain't arguing just the green space, okay, this is it here. Let this green space remain a place where descendants can gather, where children can learn, where the truth of Beacon Hill is not uplifted. Let it stand as a testament to the resonance of Black Decatur and as a reminder that healing begins with remembering. Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to hear that.
Yes.
We want to hear that.
I understand that. Can we make it a minute comments each so that we can get through everybody? Is this something we can do?
I thought this was for people, so we can listen to the residents, not y'all.
Yeah, I think at least the people in
Did they say this was for the people here?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, that was my fault. I should have had a timer, but I'm happy to hear you and I'm happy to stay.
That voice is everything. We're an echo of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can edit mine.
Okay.
1 minute, we can
Just started? Let them speak.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Small, and I'm a member of the Atlanta Friends League, also known as Quakers. I'm also an archaeologist, and I know the importance of treating historically significant land with care, humility, and respect. As Friends, we support the effort to protect the green space at 346 West Trinity because we believe that the history, dignity, and memory of the community must not be erased for the sake of convenience or power. When Black elders tell us this land is sacred ground shaped by ancestry, displacement, suffering, and endurance, we are called to listen with humility and respond with integrity. Quakers are led by conscience to stand on the side of truth, justice, and repair. The history of urban renewal in Decatur is not neutral. It is bound up with racism, dispossession, and the breaking of communities. That history creates a moral obligation in the present. This land may hold meaning across multiple layers of history, not only for the Black community of Beacon Hill, but also as part of ancestral homeland of the Muskogee Creek people. Thus, I would like to see an archaeological survey conducted on the land at 346 West Trinity. As an archaeologist, I believe this work should be done carefully and in partnership with the community. Led by a local archaeologist, such a project would provide an important educational opportunity, especially for students who are not being taught the history and legacy of the Beacon Hill community in their classrooms. Furthermore, there are multiple other viable locations that are suitable and even preferable for the development by the Board of Education. When alternatives exist, there is no moral excuse for advancing a plan that deepens historical wounds, disregards the voices of displaced Black elders, and puts at risk the place of such communal and spiritual meaning. As Quakers, our testimony calls us to peace, integrity, equality, community, and stewardship. Those values lead us to oppose decision-making that is abusive, opaque, or dismissive of those most affected. This is not simply a legal or administrative matter. It is a moral and spiritual question of whether we choose repair over repetition, reverence over exploitation, and truth over erasure.
Thank you.
Fringe, Georgia, and what they did with the cemetery there, they just had, they were going to restore the Confederate cemetery and ground radar down graves of enslaved people.
You want us to build ECLC with Fringe? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm sorry.
Wow, what is wrong with y'all? Whoa! These people are great.
Existing sites that can be refurbished to fit needs. As I understand it, the majority of this building is office building.
No, not at all. Not at all. Less than 10%. It has only a couple more offices than like this. This building has 10 offices. So I appreciate the public to be frustrated with me right now, but let's at least agree to debate facts, right? And so it is not really.
What facts have you brought?
I do want to say It's not majority office.
But
I mean, that's
Hans,
important.
I think it's also important that one, I think you said 10, and I believe it was 16 or 13, and two,
16.
okay, 16, so 16 is not 10 if we're gonna talk about facts.
Is that schools have offices. This one has a couple more offices, 6. So there's 6 more offices.
Where are the 50 kids? Just search.
6 more offices
Where are the
because we're
offices?
selling
We have one big office downstairs.
teachers that are in houses that are, I'm not teachers, I'm sorry, psychologists and support services that are in houses as opposed to actually either in the central office or in other schools. And so we're putting them there, right? So that's 6 offices difference than this building. I do understand that the public is asking about that, but it's not majority offices.
Okay, just very focused on one issue.
Yeah.
You have a sign right there that says "Be kind, include others." And what she just said, you're totally erasing their voices.
Thank you.
There is a piece of property where this can be done.
Yeah, okay.
We weren't here in the request of a beacon here at Elder, it's not.
Okay, okay.
We have come because the Beacon Hill elders have requested we are here.
Okay, then let's.
We are not here to tell you where to build another building, we're here because the Beacon Hill elders have requested our presence because they want this to be approached as a spiritual problem, which it is. My name is Melanie Von Caldwell. I'm one of the 2 pastors at Oakhurst Baptist, which is right around the corner. We have a long-standing relationship with the Beacon Hill Black Alliance for Human Rights. Recently at our church, we held a conversation where we talked about the city of Decatur voting and giving a commitment to reparations and redress. We just hosted that conversation. We went deep into the history of how the people that lived on this land, like the stores, have been removed over and over. And I'm gonna go quickly through my notes. I had 3 minutes, but that's great, thank you. The Beacon Hill elders have explained to us that this land is sacred to them. They have explained to us that it has been stolen from them over and over. And so as people who understand ourselves as interconnected with one another, we must strive, as we tell our children, and all of us tell our children, to apologize for what we have done, to make it right by not doing it again. And we owe it to our Beacon Hill elders to honor what they have communicated they want seen done with this land, at the very least an archaeological study. We owe it to our children, too, to create processes that care about people's stories, history, ethics, integrity, and spirituality. With no integrity or ethics coming from the highest offices in this land, we look to you, our local leaders, to model that for us, for our children, to embrace systems where values like honesty, dialogue, and process matter. As a church dedicated to inclusion and social justice for our entire last several decades, we care deeply about early childhood education, special education, and making sure that those who are underserved disproportionately are served appropriately and equally with equity. But we know that we don't have to do that by compromising our other values as well. So we ask you respectfully to explore more creative solutions to meet the equity needs of our children in Decatur, to honor the request of our Beacon Hill elders, and to conduct an archaeological survey on the land at 346 West Trinity Place, led by an archaeologist, something that could benefit our teachers, our students, our people, in learning about how we all wound up here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ross, and I'm a 6th grader at Beacon Hill Middle School. I'd like to talk tonight about why we should not build on the last green space of what used to be a thriving community called Beacon Hill. Beacon Hill wasn't just land. It was a neighborhood full of families, culture, churches, and memories. People lived there, grew up there, and built their lives there, yet White people wanted progress, so it was destroyed. In my Individuals and Societies class, I have learned about what happens when communities are pushed aside and erased. If the elders of Beacon Hill community are telling us not to build over their land, again, why is Decatur not listening? Ignoring them means ignoring people who understand the history the most. Some people who may say we can just add a plaque to remember what was there, but those don't truly celebrate history. That is not the same as protecting the actual land where people once lived. History isn't just something we read in books. It's something we should learn from and hopefully use to help us not make the same mistakes again. If we erase places like Beacon Hill, again, we're not learning or repeating the past. I believe you all have good intentions, but good intentions don't always lead to good outcomes. Many times in history, people in power believed they were doing the right thing. Maybe they thought they were improving things by building parks, highways, or even lakes, but they didn't listen to the communities already living there. The result was not helpful. It was harm, displacement, and lost history. So let's listen, let's remember, and let's make a better choice. I'd like to ask you all now to commit. Now, you will have an archaeological survey done of this land before any other plans we build. Do you agree?
Multicultural ministries and free college campuses. Since 2008, I've been in Decatur, and I'm here to support the Beacon Hill Historical Preservation. The land the home I grew up in West Tennessee, was the first home built on that property because it was native Chickasaw land. Every year when we tilled our garden, there would be full arrowheads and pigments of chips of stone where they were begun. I was never taught about that, except to the history of Andrew Jackson, for whom my hometown was named after, who displaced those native Chickasaw in 100 years less than from when I was born. So it is not that ancient history. I live in a time now in America where I grew up in some very rough times, and I'm afraid that we're moving back into some of those times. Being aware and acknowledging the scope of land here in Decatur is important. I also grew up at a time when school integration happened. In Jackson, what they did was choose 2 black children to go to every elementary school. Only 2 children in white schools. In my 4th grade class, there was Katie, the only child who was of her color. And no conversation about how to engage with her. And I carry that history with me. I believe Decatur is progressive and is wanting to lead the way in America with the work that we do with our children and with our communities coming together. I stand with Beacon Hill. This land will be an opportunity to preserve the Muskogee history, the history of Beacon Hill, and it's not a bad side effect that it's I've been told, the largest 3 acres of open land in the city of Decatur, and we have lots of festivals and opportunities to use that land in celebration together. Thank you.
Thank you.
doesn't require it. The DHA has a right of first refusal if you don't. It's not required. They can waive that, yes.
If we don't use it for educational purposes, you're 100% correct, sir. The DHA has a right of first refusal. So I want to also clarify that, if we don't use it for educational purposes, then, you know, the default may not be necessarily that it's a green space. So I just also, it's a question for some of the folks who are here, is that, what would be the feedback?
I'm glad you asked that. That location can become an interpreted historical site with a lack of any buildings or presence there. Within this room, I'm very confident that we have a consortium of people and experts that can help bring that about. But when you look at an interpretive site, that could be the nucleus of the node for the entire Beacon Hill Historic District. You have enough space there to recreate representations of the Beacon Hill wall, the playground, stores, food. Also, you can do things such as augmented reality, interpretive things that you can come up and do a QR code. You can have something similar to the Praise House that was there. And this is just, I am not an expert in that area. I've worked with some historical preservation before. So there are lots of things that you can do that are educational, just like the young man that just left in 6th grade saying, look, we need to learn. We had a student that was at the Historic Preservation Committee that was eager to learn about the history of Beacon Hill. So you can put something there with some permanency in the form of the historic site. My question also is, with shifting populations, shifting cultural factors and so forth, when will the ECLC become defunct? How long would it be useful as an ECLC/daycare center/administrative offices versus putting something there that brings the entire community together, as it is doing right now, bringing community together, creating community, and making Decatur the so-called greater place that it wants to be.
So with your plan, that would be through the housing authority?
How is it going to be through a housing authority if you own the land?
I thought I heard you suggest an educational site.
I'm saying, I don't know any historic site that isn't educational in nature.
Right.
So I'm saying, as an historic site, it becomes educational. Now, all of the nuances that you bring to that would be something that you could do finally in collaboration with the community to see exactly what can be done to flesh out the educational factors and educational elements of that historical site. Again, augmented reality, QR codes where younger students, you can do a lot of things on that site, inclusive of gathering spots for people to come together. You can do lecture series on the grounds. You can do a lot of things with that space.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It would be eminently more permanent than a building.
Before I introduce myself, I asked this gentleman to go in front of me because for you to hear a Baptist minister, a Methodist minister, and a Presbyterian is a heavy dose. My name is Fahid Abubakar. I'm a Presbyterian minister in the Presbyterian Greater Atlanta. I arrived to Columbia Seminary in 1970, imagine, to pursue my education. So I have been in this area for 56 years. First, I want to salute you as a board for your leadership. I want to salute all of us for this great attendance of this board meeting. I want to focus on three things. Number one, the importance of land. Second, the importance of children. And third, the importance of Beacon Hill community elders. As a Palestinian American that had been in the United States for 60 years, the new generation, they are hooked to their job, and they move all over the United States. But when you think about elders, I think about my dad, who was a farmer. The land is important and sacred and spiritual to these Beacon Hill elders. The second, the importance for our children. The whole purpose is really the children is number one. How do we educate them? How do we take care of them? So the underprivileged children in our community at Beacon Hill are very important to be a number one priority. The third, I think about these Beacon Hill elders to come, and the reason I'm speaking, because I am right now 80 years old, so I am these elders. So I hope that you can do the right thing. As a minister, I challenge you to do the right thing for Beacon Hill community. Thank you for listening to us today.
My name is Kevin Moran. I'm a member of Oakers Presbyterian Church, chair of the Peacemaking Justice Group. I'm here this evening to speak for the necessity of conducting an archaeological study. There is reason to believe that human remains exist on that site. But the potential desecration of an American grave site would be yet another indignity to the Beacon Hill residents. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andrea Rickenstein, and I'm a current student at Decatur High School. The man, right before he just spoke, asked a very good question: how do we educate the children? And I think that the way of kind of forming this archaeological site is a very good way to kind of educate all of us about Beacon Hill and who was there, who lived there, all of the kind of activities that they performed and the businesses that they had. And I feel like performing the site is, we'd be able to, like, as high school students, because we're right down the street, be able to go there and walk and see kind of like all about this, and we'd be able to learn, because we don't really get to do that. We haven't really been taught, like, oh, here's the Beacon Hill community, here's what they did, here's how they live. We don't really know a lot about that. Like, most of what I'm learning has been from participating in these meetings and hearing all these elders speak. Like, it's not from school. And so I think this archaeological site would be a great way to kind of start introducing that. So thank you.
About time to wrap up, and I hope I can speak for everyone that I'm glad that everyone has come. Personally, I think we all want the same thing for our school district and our students, and so I look forward to making sure that we can work together on that. Thank you.